is not good. You might be able to see here it is leaking. A little discouraging start here. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is Troy with Cichlid Bros. In today's video, we're going to be finishing this big 500-gallon plywood aquarium. We're going to be finishing up the final coats of Pond Shield and getting this thing completely waterproofed. We're going to be installing the glass. It's going to be an awesome video, and I'm really excited to complete this series, so let's dive right in. So this is video 5 in a series of building a massive plywood aquarium. I picked up the plywood panels, 2x4s, 2x6s, and all the other materials I need from Home Depot and ordering online. And once I got everything home, I started getting to work. Initially with building the tank stand and then building the plywood shell out of these big plywood panels. The dimensions of this tank are 76 inches long by 43 inches deep and 34 inches tall. The tank stand is another 33 to 34 inches tall. And a major reason I decided to build this DIY plywood aquarium instead of buying one is I just could not get this tank size down into my basement. The stairwell is just not big enough. And besides, I'll save quite a bit of money building this tank rather than buying a new one anyway. And I guess I also wanted to test some of my DIY skills because this is not something I do every day. I definitely had limited skill when it came to DIY builds like this, so I used a lot of other how-to videos out there. Aquarium Domain and King of DIY were two of the main influences. And like I said in the other videos, this is not a how-to video itself, it is a how I did this plywood aquarium. You can use some tips and tricks, I'm sure, from the videos that I had posted, but I would definitely pair that with knowledge from some of the more experienced DIY builders. But in those first 4 videos, we obviously built the tank stand, the plywood shell of the aquarium. We started waterproofing the tank with Pond Shield, fiberglass, and even more Pond Shield. We had the window frame built out of 2x4s. We added external bracing. We cut some holes for the plumbing. And leading into the 5th video of this series, we needed to finish waterproofing the tank, adding the glass panel, and of course filling this bad boy up and doing a leak test. So the next step with this aquarium is to finish up the waterproofing with the Pond Shield. I had just sanded down the whole inside of the tank, and now we're gonna wipe it down and get ready for the next coat of Pond Shield. I need everything set and ready before I actually glue in the plumbing and the actual window frame. And I'm really excited to get this thing completely waterproof. Okay, so we got another coat of Pond Shield on the vertical braces here. These will go on after we install the glass, and there were some touch-ups I've added in here with the Pond Shield as well, so technically a 9th coat. And all of this has cured over 24 hours, so now it is time for the glass. So the glass panel we're going to be installing today is 1/2-inch tempered glass. It is 72 by 30 inches tall, and it is going to be going inside the window frame. So we're going to be putting the glass in the tank and then siliconing and pulling it into the frame. It's not going to be flush to the frame, it's going to be on the inside, siliconed in. So I do have to sand down the inside of the window frame so that there's something for the silicone to grip onto. So I'm going to sand again, and then we're going to do the siliconing. So let's get to it. So it was finally time to install the glass panel. The panel itself was so heavy and awkward that even the two of us just couldn't really get it into place. It didn't quite fit through the window pane, and it was just a little bit awkward, so the two of us decided to stop and call in some extra support. So you might notice the Cichlid bro-in-law, Rob, who has been in multiple videos helping us move things around or just do some manual labor for us.
Doing great work, Rob.
Quinn, as usual, doing nothing. So much appreciated help from Rob, but with the 3 of us, we were actually able to move the glass panel in through the top of the aquarium, and I was inside the aquarium slowly catching the glass panel as we laid it down on some 2x4s, some towels and blankets, so that then I could quickly go ahead and silicone the glass. And because I had Rob's help for a short time, I went ahead and quickly siliconed the glass panel, which was the gasket that was going to secure it to the window frame. And with that silicone applied, we pulled up the glass panel and secured it to that window frame, and now we're going to let it cure. So this is inside the tank, and you can see the silicone gasket here between the glass and the window frame. I have my clamps here on the top, and then I have all these different boards pushing against the glass for pressure near the bottom. And you basically want as much silicone coverage in this gasket as possible. And like this area here wasn't perfect, but for my first attempt, I'm pretty happy with it. It should definitely hold water and be completely fine, but it'll be even extra supported whenever I do the silicone bead along the trim, which will totally waterproof it. And you might also see that there's a little bit of silicone that is pushed out into the viewing panel from the top and even on the left side of the window frame. So you can see that from the front, and I will actually be taking a razor blade and scraping off the excess silicone so that the front viewing panel looks extra clean. And apologies for not showing footage of me actually siliconing the glass panel. I completely forgot and I was in a time crunch, so apologies for that, but I am going to show siliconing the glass bead. So this will go around the glass panel, and I'll show that in just a second. And this is the silicone I've been using. It is all-purpose clear silicone, 100% waterproof, and I will leave a link to this as well as all the other materials for the build down in the description below. But the next step is to apply the silicone bead to the trim of the glass panel, which makes it 100% waterproof and adds a little more stability to that glass panel. So let's get to that now. We have the big silicone bead now in place around the edges of the glass panel, completely waterproofing it, and it was a lot of silicone. I used 4 bottles of silicone just for the edge work for the bead. So I think it's going to be really secure, and that's obviously what I'm going for with this tank, so happy about that. We're going to let it cure for a handful of days here. We're going to come back, and then we're going to start filling. So can't wait for that. See you then. Alright guys, we are back and everything has now cured. Let's go in the tank and check out the silicone work here. When you're installing the glass panel with this method, you basically have that silicone gasket which seals the glass panel to the window frame itself, and that glass panel does float a little bit there. It's a couple inches off the bottom of the tank, and that gasket itself could have been a little bit thicker. I didn't do a perfect job on it, but I'll give myself a C+ or B-. It should definitely hold the window frame in place. But the silicone bead itself I'm really happy with. I went super thick on the silicone, and this is actually what waterproofs the window frame, and it does add a structural component to add to that gasket. So with that extra support from the silicone bead and the gasket itself, this glass panel should be good to go and very secure for many years to come. The last step here is I'm gonna go ahead and screw in 2 of the vertical braces. I'm going to leave the other 2 vertical braces off of the tank for the time being. It won't really impact the leak test we're about to do. It's more for support and to prevent the tank from bowing over time. And besides, I might need to get back into the tank to aquascape and to set everything else up. So with 2 of the vertical braces in place, it is now time for the leak test. And I am both anxious and excited to go ahead and fill this thing with water, not only to see if the work I've done over the last month actually will pay off, but also to get this aquarium set up and running because I have a lot of cool stocking plans and aquascaping ideas. So obviously a huge step in this tank build, but a few reasons for doing the leak test the way we're doing it now is just so it's off the wall and I can go around the full perimeter of the tank inspecting for any leaks at all. Also, I just really want to get water in this tank because I've never worked with Pond Shield or any of these materials before. So I just want to have a little bit of a level of confidence before I completely plumb the sump, add the extra bracing, and start aquascaping and put in 500 pounds of sand and rock in here. So the plan for this leak test is to fill it up the majority of the way, about 85 to 90% full, all the way up to the cutouts for the plumbing. Once the leak test is complete and hopefully successful, we'll drain the tank, we'll move it into its final place, as well as finishing the installation of the sump and the plumbing. So big step here, let's get some water. Here we go. Well guys, that didn't take long. I already got a leak. this is not good. So you might be able to see here, one of the boards of the bottom window frame is leaking. So it looks like there's some type of separation happening either with the glass panel and the silicone or the actual inside part of the pond armor. So I'm going to drain the tank, I'm going to inspect that area, see what I can do to fix it potentially, and then hopefully we'll be alright, but a little discouraging start here. So the tank is now drained and I did identify the issue, and if you remember the grade I gave myself on the silicone bead itself I'm really happy with. Well, I take that back because there was clearly an area of the silicone bead underneath the glass panel that I was not perfect on, and I think this spot was just especially awkward to get the caulk gun and the silicone up and into the panel on the bottom. So that's my reasoning, I think, for why I wasn't perfect there. So with the tank drained, I'm going to scrape out that area of the silicone. I went and got much more silicone, so I'm going to be adding as much as I possibly can to make sure that I don't have any other leak like this. So definitely a bummer, but a learning experience. Hopefully I can get it fixed and then we can continue with the leak test in this video, but we'll see.
1 week later.
So it is a week later since I made the repairs on the silicone. It was a painstaking process. I used razor blades to cut out a lot of the areas of the previous silicone, and then I added way more silicone to especially that bottom area for the bottom bead, but also reinforcing some other areas as well. And we're gonna start filling the tank again today, but just some quick thoughts on why I think this leak happened. First off, my silicone work in that area, especially along the bottom, was just not perfect. The waterproofing bead had a few cracks in it, and I think I was just going a little bit too fast and maybe didn't realize it wasn't going all the way up into the glass in that crease. And I also may have sanded down the window frame a little bit too much, so some of the epoxy or the pond armor that was around the window frame, I sanded down that area a lot so that the silicone had something to adhere to. And to be honest, I may have rushed that first leak test. You do need to let silicone cure for 6 to 10 days, and I may have only let it cure 4 or 5 days.
I'm not a smart man.
And it wasn't completely solid whenever I was investigating it a little bit further. And so that was probably just another mistake by me. I just wanted to get the video update out to you guys as soon as possible. But with this step, with the silicone curing, and this being a very important step in the process, you can't really rush it, but hoping with the extra silicone that I applied, the upgraded and bigger silicone bead, that will have no issues with the next fill up. So just maybe learn from my mistakes, and if you're building one of these yourself, hopefully you don't run into this issue at all. But I am very excited and anxious for leak test number 2 today, so let's get to it. So leak test number 2 is now underway. Let's go. So we are still looking good, guys. We have the tank about 8 inches full now. There's no leak here in that previous spot or around the tank that I've seen. And we're gonna keep filling this up, but hopefully it's all good. Knock on wood. That's right, Rainbow. We got water. All right, guys, so far so good. We're about 40% full here, maybe around 200 gallons in the tank, and everything has looked good, including the spot that we fixed. Everything so far so good. But we will check back here with the leak test in just a second. I have a few other really cool things to show you. So even though the build of the plywood tank was delayed, I was definitely not idle in those few weeks. This is a big update on what we're going to be setting up here. These are the lights, and these guys are incredible. I am really looking forward to this. These are Radions from Ecotech Marine, and I have 3 of them. And I believe I also have the hanging kits. I do. So these will be hanging above the tank, similar to how the AI blades on my 135 hang, but these are going to be hanging as more of a puck style, and I'm really excited to have another really nice high quality light to test out. It's going to look awesome on the tank. So that means I have the lighting ready to go. I have the C-shape pumps, heaters, wave makers, all of that ready to go in the plumbing of the next video. But even a bigger shipment is coming in a few hours. Let's go ahead and jump to that now. So I had a huge package delivered from Carib Sea, and it was so big it had to be on a pallet. So let's check it out. Okay guys, so I just got my 400 pounds of sand and rock. Time to move it down to my basement. So I was able to lug down the 400 pounds of sand and additional 100 pounds of rock. You also may see that these boxes of sand is Carib Sea Sunset Gold. And that is definitely my favorite sand substrate. I have it in my 180 here. We've put it in a couple other tank setups, and we've always really liked the Carib Sea Sunset Gold. And I also picked up about 100 pounds of gray mountain stone, which is also from Carib Sea. And this might be giving you some hints into what I'm going to be stocking the new plywood tank with, or it might be misleading you a little bit. You'll just have to see, but I can assure you it's going to be awesome. And we even got Rambo enjoying all the boxes. Well guys, we did it.
Thank you, God. Victory!
This second leak test was a success. The tank has been holding water for a little over a week now. I originally filled up the tank about 30 to 40% and let it sit for a couple days. When all was good and there was no leaks, I filled it up another 30 or 40% and right up to the plumbing cutouts that you'll see here. And with the tank being a few feet off the wall, I was able to walk around the perimeter of the tank, check for any leaks at all, and we're good to go. So this is a huge step complete, and now we can move into some of the really fun things, finishing up the plumbing and setting up the inside of the tank. And obviously I'm not completely out of the woods yet. This tank could always leak in the future, but I did overkill the build as much as possible with multiple coats of pond shield, extra support, bracing, everything that you could think of. The one issue I did have was the silicone, which I fixed and then reinforced with a lot of silicone. So what's gonna happen now? Well, I'm gonna have to drain the tank, and then I'm gonna have some friends stop by in a couple days to help me move it into the corner, and then we're gonna start on the equipment, installing the lighting, finishing up the plumbing, and we're gonna be aquascaping. So hopefully the tank will be completely aquascaped in the next video. So when we start scaping, I will also be revealing the stocking plans for this tank. I've had it in mind since the beginning, and I'm very excited to share with you and reveal those stocking ideas. And I'm not sure if this will be in the next video or not, but I'll also be doing some aesthetics to the room and the exterior of the tank, making everything look really nice and tidy, painting the outside of the aquarium, also wrapping the tank stand, and trimming out a little bit of that excess silicone in the front viewing panel. And also, if you're wondering if I actually got in this tank for the thumbnail,
Yeah.
so we have some big and exciting updates coming on this tank very soon. So make sure you subscribe down below so you don't miss the future updates. Can't wait to share them. Thanks again for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.